Just checking my levels here real quick. Ringtone off. Okay. What is up? Happy Monday. That sounds weird to say sometimes, but I was gonna be out in the boat tonight, but it's still blowing pretty good. We would have had terrible audio, so I figured we'd hang out in here for a while. I think I'm going to adjust this just a hair while we're waiting for people to come in. How's that? A little better? I feel like it, right? All right. What is up, Wiz? Hey, Don Terry, what's going on, everybody? We'll get going here in a second. Getting some stuff set up here. There's gonna be a point to our discussion this evening. How do you like them apples? How do you like them apples? All right. I am going to go through with you tonight. Danny Diamond, how you doing, buddy? Bill Gilbert. Everyone else's video fuzzy, asks my wife. Let's see. Do I have some sort of cleaning utensil? I have a circuit tester if anybody wants to. Nope. Let's see here. It might be me. Should I turn the Wi-Fi off? Let's get to it. Welcome to Monday Night Fishing, everybody. My name is Matt. I'm the Awakening Angler. And if you've been watching my channel for the last couple days, I have been doing something I don't do a lot of, and I think I'm going to do quite a bit of here for a little while. I started throwing the hammer harness. Okay. So, Matt, what is the hammer harness? The hammer harness is a shortened worm spinner, worm harness. Depends on where in the walleye world you are as to what you call them. Some people just call them spinners because of the blades. Worm harnesses, you name it. I don't know what you call it, but whatever you call it, this is about 18 inches long, give or take, 15 to 18. I'm not exactly sure. Good friend of mine, Brian Hammond, makes these here in Central New York. He hand ties every one of them from snelling the hook to putting the beads on and the clevis and the bobber stop, which is key. We'll get to that in a minute. This is meant to be casted using using, let's call it a casting weight, okay? It is basically, there's a barrel swivel molded into each end of the weight. It's a worm weight, basically, with a swivel on each end. And then on the working end of the hammer harness, you see that little swivel. So now you have 1, 2, 3 points of swivel, and I'm going to get to that in a minute too, because that's pretty important. And so the technique that we're doing is called throwing the hammer rig. All right. BHammer Tackle is the name of the company, and this is their signature hammer rig. Now, here on Oneida Lake, we've had weed beds, and we have a lot of weed beds, and we have going back to the dawn of time, and people have found that the walleyes live in those weeds. And then you go, okay, well, how am I going to catch them in the weeds? And it is a very fun technique. It's very interactive. You're in constant contact with your bait. You're not really long chucking it. You're counting it down to get into the weed tops. Now Brian everybody fishes them a little differently, but Brian, the originator of these and of this company, he likes to get his as far down that stalk towards the bottom as possible. When you're first starting out, I like to come in high and sometimes start reeling as soon as that hits the water over the top of those weeds, because you pull a lot of fish up out of those weeds. You don't have to be right in their face down there, but I think you're better off. But when you're first starting out and you lob cast your weight out there, because on the meat end of this, okay, on the meat end of that octopus hook, it's a worm harness. So most people run a worm on there. But you can put just about anything back there. You could put a minnow, I'm sure. You could put a leech, live or plastic. You could put any assortment of the myriad of plastic baits we have at our disposal nowadays behind it. I like one in particular. I've had a lot of success with this. I believe I bought this at Apps out in Cleveland. This is the 3.5-inch jigging leech. And I'll show you one that I've got rigged up here in a moment. So I don't necessarily think it matters what goes on the other end. We call it a worm harness. It's, again, call it whatever you want. It's a Carolina rigged spinner blade. Yesterday I caught 5 bass on it. Today we caught, 15 or 20 pickerel on it. And a walleye. And a sunfish, and a rock bass yesterday. I don't think it matters too much about you say you're going to go target it. You run that through those weed beds, and there are a certain amount of fish that are going to come out and eat it. And like I say, we went in there looking for walleyes. We're targeting walleyes. That's what we want to catch. We're going in there thinking that's what's in there. Now, sorry, lost my train of thought. Irregardless. So the last 2 days I've been fishing them, and it's been a lot of fun. And that's where I was going with this. It's been a lot of fun, and you're cranking along. You're casting out there, and you're slow cranking it along. Whether you were, there's a lot of techniques that are like that. Again, I do a ton of finesse swim bait fishing, and that's a chuck and reel, nice, slow, steady retrieve. That's all this is, but it's going through those stalks of weeds, so you got all those stalks sticking up, and that thing, the weight hits it first, and I'm running straight 10-pound braid, and I could go a little heavier. And Brian had recommended something in the 15 to 20 pound range for braid. I understand his point. Like I've casted it now for 2 days straight on the same rod. I've got to cut about a 20-foot section off because it's even with, like we talked about with twist mitigation. Today in this morning's report, you throw that thing and it helicoptering and it's swiveling in multiple points. It creates a lot of line twist. And even on my Cortland Master Braid, which is I've been extremely happy with that, that line. Very, very happy. This is my 3rd season using it now exclusively. But today I could see after 2 straight days of doing it, I kept getting a curly cue, a spin that would, so my braid was coming in. So the braid was coming in from the top and then this was the bottom. It was swinging over and catching all this. So it had a loop like that. And it was a pain right in the tuchus, I'm going to tell you. So, but I didn't realize it at the time. And now sitting here talking about it, that's because of twist. That's because of line twist. And so I got to cut some of that back and redo that. But, so yeah, I've been fishing it for 2 days and it's a lot of fun. And I'm looking through water that I don't normally. Now I did a lot of snap jigging last year, which I'll be doing more of and snapping like little shiver minnows, snapping bucktails, snapping swim baits with glued heads or glued or screwed so you don't rip the swim bait off. I did a lot of that in the shallow weed beds last year. I didn't do a lot of casting these spinners, and it's fun. And the bite is there's a lot of different bites. I had multiple fish today, and again, all I caught was pickerel today. I didn't catch a walleye, but I had a couple bites that just tried to rip it right out of your hand, no warning, just rip like that, and you're like, holy cow, And others you can feel them chewing on it. That big walleye that Paul caught today. He goes, it was different. He goes, it was 1, 2. And then 3, and he goes, what do you think? And I said, well, I think they do the same thing to that. I feel like I got something crawling on me. A giant tarantula. So I theorize that this is going through the water and you got whatever tail on it, worm or another couple, 2-3 inches. So this whole presentation is probably 5 or 6 inches long. And I think that walleye, just like with a swim bait, comes right up behind it, inhales the whole thing, and keeps right on swimming along, minding his own business. And just like a smallmouth does. And we see that, time and time again. Warm water, cold water, that finesse swim bait bite is, you're reeling along and all of a sudden that rod tip just goes mush. It starts to load up. Here's your bait. They've already sucked it in, inhaled it, and kept right on swimming. They don't have any idea what's going on yet. And that's pretty finesse too. Even that big 3/8 ounce weight that's up in front of it, clunking through those weed stalks. And sometimes, listen, starting off before you start to get your feel, that fisherman's feel of the difference between us cramming into a stalk of weed or a subtle bite. And some of those bites in the weeds are subtle. And I kind of zone out and I know all the different feels. And then when you feel something in that symphony coming up through your hand, those vibrations that come up the rod and into your arm and into your brain, and they're telling you what is going on. Actually, it'd be this arm. that you're tuned into all these different things that are happening because you're coming in constant contact with something in the water, meaning weeds in this point, and they all feel different, but then being able to isolate that difference and that bite feel, especially when you're running a live crawler on there, because then it can be a much more subtle bite, So it's interesting though, and you don't know. You get a lot of follows. Paul had a big follow today. You get a lot of follows. You get a lot of pretty intimate action right up close to the boat. Although I say that, nothing is ever any one thing all the time. I say that, and I had at least 3, maybe 4 instances where I had a hole in one today, and that's a Tony Buffa-ism. A hole in one, doesn't matter what you're doing. It's you make your cast out, and that lure of yours goes to wherever it's going, and between the time it hits the water until you take the first turn of the handle, if that fish hits it, that's a hole in one. Just like in golf. And I had at least 3 of them today where that blade, and because once it hits the water, I'm sure it folds up. Your main line is like this coming down. So this is like this, I'm assuming, but then this is going right straight down to the bottom. And 3 different fish today and 2 yesterday hit it before I even closed the bail. So you're only in, 8 to 15 foot of water, but it's more like 10 to 12, 9 to 13. So anything that hits the water in 9, 10 foot of water, what's living on the bottom, they can see it. No question, probably in 50 foot of water, but no question in 10. In my mind, no question, especially in that shallow. Dark day even, doesn't matter. They're looking up and seeing that silhouette coming down through that forest into their living room. And it's kind of the same thing if you were in those heavy weeds flipping for bass. You pitch to that pocket of or any place you would see multiple species of weed come together like in a tight little area. I'd flip that 3-4 times all around that area, because somewhere there would be a bass there, because it's a convergence of bottom when you have different species. That's another story, but you're just pitching to a target and it goes boom, down. And if you don't get bit on that first drop, okay, you might shake it, you might pop it back up and let it go one more time and see if it'll trigger. But if it didn't trigger on that first time down, which is like that, you're catching that fish off guard, because all of a sudden something's coming down, and he grabs it, like that. They don't have hands. You startle them like that. I think a lot of times they bite out of reaction. That's what we're talking about. So it's very complex. It's not just a one-dimensional technique or bait. And it's certainly not one species, not at all. I actually look forward to doing this up on the St. Lawrence this summer. I hope next weekend Courtney takes me up there for Father's Day. I think I would like to go up to Cape Vincent, where I have quite a few of my relatives buried up there, and my grandparents and Grandpa always used to go to Grindstone Island in Clayton every year with him and all of his buddies from Carrier that he worked with over there. And they used to always go Father's Day weekend, which was opening of bass season, 3rd Saturday in June. And every year I remember waiting at the dock for him to come home on Sunday night and hear the stories and just to see him again, and it was Father's Day, and he'd be home in the evening, and his 2 daughters, my mom and my aunt and his wife, they'd all do something for him and us kids. But That was his tradition with all of his buddies. But I think these up there, I mean, they catch bass just like they catch walleyes and northerns. I mean, you could you could you could have some fun up there. So where's all the where's my comments? Okay. All right, let's go through here and see what's going on. I left off at Bill Gilbert, Courtney Fuzzy, Don Terry a little, Merlin. I watched Mr. Beast last night for the very first time ever because somebody else had told me about him. It was pretty cool. The guy's mega famous, but he had two guys that had won a contest to live outdoors in the woods with nothing. They just dropped them off, and they were going to make $10,000 a day for every day they stayed out there, and they ended up staying like 75 days. So that was pretty cool, actually. Eric Wisniewski. Tim Cook, the pickerel seem to peck at it a bit, then take it. The walleyes start to load up the rod. At least that's what it seemed like to me. Yeah, that pecking, I agree with you, Tim, on that, 1,000%. And it's usually a couple falsies before the big one. I don't know what it is with what fish it is that's just freight training it. Could be any of them. I don't have a way of knowing. I will tell you that smallmouth yesterday smashed it. Now, I was in an area where I'm sure that they were post spawn by this point, but I was in a rocky area that had scattered grass in it, and I was throwing that yesterday in there. That's the only fish I caught, but that smallmouth just waffled it. I mean, big time waffled it. There was no hesitation. The largemouth caught 4 largemouth yesterday doing this, and they were much more of a like you could feel it. He's there. He started to load it up. It's there, and then you had to reel into it. No question. And the walleyes. Listen, I only caught one in 2 days, and my buddy caught one today on a weight forward spinner. So I'm not speaking that firsthand about it right at the moment for walleyes, but a walleye bite's a little different. It's a dump, dump, dump. Hey, Chris Bryan, what's going on, buddy? DEKU, do you get bass? Yes, we do. Like I say, I had a limit of bass on it yesterday. I had 4 largies and a smallmouth. Thad Lance, how you doing? Weekend on the East End, watching live. Gonna have a great weekend on a night. Yeah. Yep. Tammy Hoover, how you doing? I am all weekend on the East End. I am almost convinced the East End and the West End are 2 completely different lakes. Guess I'll figure it out. They are though. Listen, and that's not a. They are 2 different bodies of water. The East End is deep and steep, and it was where there was soft bottom, and that glacier just came through and dug that right up. And then the West End goes like this, and there's just a little slight bowl to it. You have the river down at the far end at 81 that funnels and pulls that current, and you can have them pulling water at Codnoy and have a noticeable current all the way out to the islands. So it's almost a big river at that point in spots. So it's fascinating. The whole lake. This lake is New York's greatest lake. I coined that phrase. I will continue to say that phrase Oneida Lake is New York's greatest lake. It's our largest inland body of water. And from one end to another, east to west, north to south, you have everything you could want in a lake present um, in one body of water. You know, someone is, I get asked all the time, Matt, what do I do to go catch walleyes? What do you want to do? You know, are you a troller? Are you a caster? You know, do you want to troll crankbaits faster? Do you want to go slower and pull worm harnesses? Do you want to cast and you want to cast swim baits? Do you want to cast jerk baits? Do you want to cast jigs? Do you want to cast blade baits, jig and wrap style minnows, a bucktail and a worm? See where I'm going with this? Then once you decide on what you want to do and what you want to do, and how you want to spend your time fishing and what you find enjoyable, whatever the technique may be, then you got to say, where do I want to do it? I want to throw spinners in the weeds in 10, 12 foot of water, along weed lines and up in where these fish are feeding, and go in those shallow areas and look for young of the year perch, look for young of the year bluegills and sunfish, because you find stuff like that. Look for bait in there just by visibly looking in some of these waters. And you'd be surprised. You could throw those harnesses in anything for a walleye, probably up into 2 or 3 feet on a lot of days in some spots. Not every place. I think most people would be shocked at how shallow these things get. But but weekend, it is too different, and you're always learning. There is so much. You want to fish deep reefs. You want to fish um, you know, open water basin walleyes. You want to, my God, you want to fish them on drop offs. You want to fish them over mud bottoms. You want to fish them over rock bottoms, in the weeds, out of the weeds, on the weed lines. My God, it's endless on what you can do out here. And I fall prey to this a lot of times. And my month of May has been not stellar for me, because I was really not conflicted, but I wasn't really settled on what I wanted to do. These last couple days have been fun because I haven't. The only thing I've thought about is which one of these to put out there. I'm not thinking about, oh, I should go here, I should do that, I should try this, I should change completely, I should, I'm going down through this section of weeds, I'm going to pick it apart, I'm going to see what's here, I'm casting, I'm reeling, I'm doing, I'm focused. I'm focused on one thing. No backup plan, no plan B through Z. It's plan A, and that's all I'm doing. And I'm confident that it's going to work. I know it's going to work. I've had it work. Now let's go see what's in those beds. Who wants to bite? Who's home? Let's go start knocking on their doors, kicking them in, actually. It was fun today. Pickerel or not, I don't care. Everybody, you want to get hung up on what species, and I'm not a species snob. I'll fish for anything, anytime. There's not a body of water I don't look at that I go, I wonder what's in there, and I'd like to catch it. So, but those pickerel were hitting it on the fall, and I thought that was really cool. Perch pounder. Oneida is overpopulated with walleye and too close to the city. Champlain is the best lake in New York. Yeah, but we don't own Champlain outright. We share it. Got to listen to what I said. Winning Walleye Fest fish was shallow. It sure was. 27 plus inches. Yes, the t-shirts are nice, aren't they? Edward Mann was out Saturday, rough waters, caught 6 different species, personal best. Would have been 7, but lost a smallie or largemouth by sight of boat before heading in. Fun day. It is a fun day. I mean, everything has its time and place, guys. You know, the Awakening Angler comes from a personal experience of mine where I kind of had a moment of clarity. I don't care what you call it. I don't get hung up on names and labels. You know, the awakening moment for me was I spent my whole young life as a guide, just every day obsessing over catching that next fish, that next limit, you know, that next group sending home with more than they could handle, and it's it got when I was younger, it got to be all consuming, you know. Um, Nowadays, though, and oh Jesus H, holy shit! My 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 seat just told my fat ass to mix in a salad once in a while because it collapsed once, and I'm like, "What was that?" And then it does it again. Oh my God, I can't believe that just happened. Oh, that's funny. Oh, that's funny. And to get back to your question, it is a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to catch fish. I mean, yeah, do you want to go out and catch your target species and buy the boatloads every single time? And sure, of course, but I also don't ever want to not appreciate catching a big sunfish like I did today and seeing those bright fluorescent turquoise streaks up their cheeks like this, and the orange so bright in your hand that you almost squint at it. Um, I don't ever want to forget the smell of those pickerel on my hands today. When I was driving the boat in, winds howling, I looked over at Paul and I go, all I can smell is pickerel. Um, but I don't care. That means we caught fish. Fish fish aren't fish, but there's more to it. And it's okay to have those joyful moments in what others might be like, oh, who cares about that? I do. I don't need universal acceptance or approval to go, man, I had a great day today and I caught 10 pickerel. You know, and that's all I caught. I caught 10 pickerel and a sunfish. Oh man, that was awesome. I was out with my buddy in kind of gnarly weather. We had most of the lake all to ourselves. What's not to love about that? Would it have been better if it was 10 walleyes? I don't know. What if they were 10 short walleyes? Then you'd have been like, oh, all I did was catch short walleyes today. I don't care. I do care, but I don't only care about that kind of stuff. Um, Farmer Tim heading up this week. Save some for me. I definitely will. I definitely will. And if you want to go one morning, um, get a hold of me and we'll go. Let me put my glasses back on so I can catch back up. Tammy. Courtney is pretty awesome. I worked her pretty hard today. She's probably sitting on the couch right now while I'm out in the garage. Bill Gilbert. Yeah, Weekend in the West End. Tim Graver, Merlin. Pickerel are fun sometimes. I'll play with them once in a while. Again, I'm not a species snob. I've fished for everything I could possibly think of in my life, and there's still plenty of life left and plenty of species left that I haven't done yet. So let's go through quick a couple of the ones I've been using in the last couple days. All right. This one was yesterday with a leech on it. Well, one of them was. Hold on. That one was yesterday. with the leech on it, one of the jigging leeches. And then this one was today, that little perch scale on there with just a curly tail. Just like that. And that curly tail coming through between the, and it ripples, does an excellent job. It catches a lot of fish. And both of those were better with plastics on the backside of them as opposed to worms. Merlin. If anybody just read what Merlin wrote, he definitely needed to quickly put a caveat in there. Oh, my buddy. My buddy. So I'm going through my, this is not really a garbage box, but this is a bunch of old rigs. We'll put that up on the workbench. I don't need that. You can get a hold of Brian and get your own BHammer Tackle. He's on Facebook, Instagram. You can look up Brian Hammond or BHammer, either one. We did, Brian and I, Brian asked me if I would help him do a seminar last winter at the sports show over at the fairgrounds, and we talked about his rigs, and he was coming out with a new rig this spring, and that was a shortened version, so it's only this long with the same swivel right there that you would hook this to your own pre-tied leaders. When you're trolling that worm harness, you want it a little farther back from your bottom bouncer, anywhere from, I don't know, 2 to 5 feet, depending. So this 18-inch one, the hammer, isn't really meant, I say it's not meant to be trolled. Everybody does, and they work great. But it's not necessarily what it was meant to do. This other one is a trolling harness that you would have your own leader for. That's all. This was also good yesterday. The bass liked it. So that's my little brighter day yesterday. That's the orange, one of my favorite colors. And that's half a Zoom trick worm on the back. And it's been, gobbed up with juice. And then I'm using an offset worm hook, straight shank worm hook, just so I can bury the tip of the hook point inside that. Like that. Then I can put whatever scent I want on it. Now this is completely weedless. And even so, see how wide that spins when it goes through the water? That blade outside of the hook point is what keeps it weedless. Nothing's 100% weedless, but it's pretty close. Purple was good for me this morning. I lost it. I should have grabbed my net and put the pickerel in the net and then put the pickerel in the net in the boat. I didn't. I should have, and I lifted them up right by the weight, popped it, sent my beads, sent my blade flying. So, oh well. Thad Lance, what scent do you use on your artificial baits? I don't have any with me because it's in the boat. I almost always, my favorite scent that I use the most of is Potski Fire Gel in the walleye scent or bass. They make crawdad. They make a couple different flavors. You know, I catch other stuff when I've got a lure juiced up with walleye scent. So I don't know that that matters, but the walleye is the yellow one. The bass is the orange one. It's a thick gel, almost waxy. I put that shit on everything. Everything. I take the front nose of my blade bait and I rub it like that on there. My shiver minnows, I do the same thing. My bucktails, so like I would take and I would rub it on the blade. I would rub it on the beads, so there's some in there, and then I would rub it on the plastic. Scent trails, stuff like that. Can't hurt, can't hurt. Let's see. All right. Anybody got any more questions or any questions on the harnesses? I've been using a 7'1" JTX, a JT Rods JTX series. It's a mag medium light. It's got a little softer tip, a little slower action. Most of the JTs have that extra fast tip. This is a little softer. It really loads up beautiful. I've enjoyed them tremendously. Don Terry, Walmart sardines and oil 107 will catch walleyes. Dip your blade or jig in it and see what happens. Yeah, you go book a charter with Captain Tony Buffa. He's got the special Buffa sauce that he has his customers dip his lures in. He won't tell you what it is, though. Well, he might, but all right. I think we're good. If we don't have any more questions, I will see you guys tomorrow morning. I'm going to go back and play in the weeds. Have a great evening. Have a great Monday. Hope the rest of your week goes fantastic. All you fathers, remember, get ready. This is your week. You get more than a day. I'm giving every father out there more than a day. You get the whole week. It's Father's Day week, all the way until next Sunday night. There you go. My gift to you. Keep your tip up.